Episode 24 with guest Trevor Cavanagh. Here we go.
If you want a podcast, you can listen to at work. Don't listen to a podcast made by a jerk. Take a listen to this instead. I'm sure you'll have a blast. The worst thing that can happen is you'll get a little gas. The Humplik Happy Hour Podcast. The Humplik Happy Hour Podcast. The Humplik Happy Hour Podcast. The Humplik Happy Hour Podcast.
We're back. Well, thank you for letting me into your sweet commode, sir.
My commode. Abode?
Amode? Is it amode?
I think commode is...
Is it commode? No, that's a can, right?
Yeah, that's a can.
Okay, well.
That's off to a good start.
It's been a while.
It has.
And it's starting to show, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's been what, August, September, October, November, December. I'm counting on my fingers. It's been 6 months.
6 months. It was warm out when we last talked. Because we did something on a picnic table by Parliament Hill when we were talking about meteors landing and Rob Ford with Phil.
Oh, with Phil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the last podcast I did. Man, so 2000, we were just talking about this briefly. How was your year?
Like I had mentioned, I noticed on New Year's Eve a lot of people saying "good riddance" to a shit burger of a year, and I definitely would have to say the same. That I was not a big fan of 2013. And I was pretty glad to get it behind me.
So is this a thing of we're just getting older?
Well,
it's just going to get worse?
Yeah, that's what I thought until I started hearing other people complaining about it, and I thought, well, maybe it's.
I saw a lot of it as well.
Yeah, more than usual, because people usually tend to kind of brag and gloat, and, well, that's unfair, but you know what I mean, how blessed they are, and blah, blah, blah. And then I always feel kind of, oh, here I am complaining. But this time it seemed like other people were complaining too, so I felt a little bit better. Somehow, strangely, knowing other people were suffering made me feel better. So
2012 was that year for me. But
okay.
Yeah, but 2013 was it was one of those I think a neutral one.
A neutral. That's better than bad, yeah.
Yeah, it's better than bad. 2012 was a bad. 2013 is neutral. I don't know. You looking forward to this year?
I think so. I think it'll be okay.
Big plans?
No. Well, tough to probably work-wise, things might change quite a bit.
Okay.
So hopefully that's good. Sometimes I've been like really excited, had a bunch of new things lined up, and they've all went south like within a month and turned into one of my worst Decembers ever. So I remember that really clearly. And so I'm worried about that happening. Anytime there's something new and there's possibility of a step up, I'm worried of having that exact same scenario where I jumped out of something I thought was bad and ended up somewhere worse. So,
yeah.
So I'm always, giving new a full body search before I let it into the house.
I find just in my personal career, we both work in high tech.
Yeah.
And so we both can relate. Well,
I'm kind of in the fake high tech though. You're in the real stuff, and I'm in the make believe world. Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but I find that 2 years is usually my going rate, and then I'm looking for a change.
Right.
Like not a change of employer, just like a lateral change in what I'm doing, because you want to keep your brain fresh, and you kind of I find you stop learning and you just want to get into something where you start learning again. And
yeah, definitely. I definitely know what you mean.
You've had a bit of a jack of all trades type of career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
It's kind of doing that. Yeah, I think I might be due soon too. So
yeah, I think that helps. I think being a jack of all trades kind of makes it easier to do lateral moves because you're used to so many different things that it's not as overwhelming as if all you do is welding or whatever. Something else might be really scary.
So you either love it or hate it.
Yeah,
I mean that's the one thing I do like about high tech. It's like you're able to kind of shift into different things and learn different things, and you're keeping your
yeah.
You try to anyways.
Yeah.
So is this like a lateral move that you're?
Yes.
Same employer, but
yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure how that's going to go. Depends on how the cards get played.
Is this getting personal?
Yeah, I think we're okay because nobody listens to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, yeah, man.
I meant nobody listens on my side.
No.
Your podcast period.
No one listens on my side either.
Right.
This is just
Well, there's my commode. Come back then.
I'm just happy to see you.
Okay.
So yeah, this is good. Change of pace from my basement. So we have like, if for people listening in, we haven't murdered anyone. There's a couple of dogs, pugs.
Yeah, they're both pugs.
Yeah, cute, eating bones right now, and
yeah, I thought that would keep them quiet, but they're starting to get a little restless, so you might hear some snorting and wandering around.
Yeah, it's all good. It's gonna add some color to the podcast, and probably needs it. So, man, the last podcast we did was the Rob Ford special, and a lot has gone on since. So I thought we'd kind of take off from where we left off in July.
Right.
And just talk about him a little bit. And so when we did that podcast, he hadn't come out yet.
No, he was still in denial.
So what was your reaction when he came out?
Well, the order that happened, right, was the police chief confirmed that he had a copy of it. I think that's what happened before he finally had his back against the wall and admitted it. And then tried to pretend it was just, I would have admitted it earlier, you just didn't ask the question the right way or whatever. Like, he did some real lawyerly tricks trying to make it seem like he wasn't actually lying.
Don't you absolutely hate that about politicians?
That was the worst case example too.
You know, if they came out, I think most politicians, if they just came out with the truth to begin with,
yeah,
people would find it easier to accept and would just let it go. But instead, this is dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. He looked like a bigger freak than he needed to be.
And he was defending himself in such a narrow way. He was saying, like, particular interviewers hadn't asked him the right question, whereas when he wasn't even being interviewed, when he was on his own radio show, he had said, I can't make a comment about a video that doesn't exist. Like, so he did offer that up. So, I mean, that definitely then is a lie, because if he knew that it existed, you know, but still he just would compartmentalize into one little thing. Well, you didn't ask me the question right, so I didn't tell you, you know, the truth. I didn't answer it because I answered your question correctly. And it had something to do with the tense of how they asked of when he smoked it. And
it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now he's going to run again in the election this fall.
Yep.
Can he possibly win? Are people in Toronto that idiotic that they would actually elect this guy again?
I think he's pretty much the front runner. Anytime I've read an article saying that he can't win, it seemed like they're really banking on a lot of variables coming into play, like somebody suddenly capturing the people's interests. But really, right now he still has a lot of support. So
God, it's just amazing. So I was listening to CBC Radio this week, and they were doing a large snort. They were doing a there's a counselor from Toronto who was talking about Rob Ford's campaign when. Do
you know which one?
I can't recall his name, and it was too early in the morning for me to remember those things. But apparently, Ford's campaign, and this is this isn't specific to Ford. This is all politicians in general. 70% of his campaign was self-financed. So he comes from an affluent family that has a lot of money. So his father, dad, his parents, whatever, just funded it. And he got elected, right? Which is a little bit unfair because if you're rich...
Yeah, it gives you an unfair advantage.
It gives you an unfair advantage. And the discovery was that 70% of the campaign in post...
Worse than kids. Okay.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, I know. I have nothing to back that up with. All right, let's give it a shot. Sorry about that.
So, so what came out was all the campaign finances, the money that he got from his family or whatever, post-campaign, after he was elected, he made that money back in post-election contributions.
Right.
So this councillor in Toronto was pushing for the ban of post-election contributions. Now imagine that essentially what that's allowing corporations to do is to give the winning horse cash. essentially, to buy influence within
Right.
City Hall or where, the Parliament or the White House or whatever it might be. And I thought that was a great idea. And I actually wasn't aware that most politicians get post-election campaign donations like that. So
With something like the mayor, it seems more unusual than when it's when you're a member of a party and the party is getting, campaign
they need to fund it along
funds,
the way.
blah blah blah. Yeah, because I belong to this party or that party. But yeah, when it's mayor, it's actually to that person. It's
Like
not
70%. That's a lot.
And I'm
Post-campaign.
sure that money doesn't just come floating in of its own free will. There's some campaigning to get that money. There's some sort of effort to get money flowing, and people are more than happy to do it to get in the good books of who's in charge. So,
You think we'll ever see the day where they're able to change this? Probably not.
well, yeah, probably. I would doubt it. Again, because it's too hard for anybody that wants to change something. Suddenly, they realize it'll benefit them. If they're in the same system to be able to change it, there's going to be some benefit to them to do it.
Yeah.
Themselves.
Of course, the counselor who was pushing for this was someone who did not accept donations from corporations.
Right.
Or very few, I believe, and he was pretty upfront. Like, he ran on a limited campaign, but he just did it efficiently.
Right.
I probably used the internet a lot, where you can kind of lower your costs without having
Yeah.
to put banners and bullshit all over town. Especially, I find in these smaller campaigns, for councilmen and all that, that's where you get pounded. You see the signs all over town. It's like a big environmental disaster zone when they're...
Right. Yeah. And they don't have to disclose who gives. I don't believe. Do they have to disclose?
I'm not sure about Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting concept and I wasn't aware that Ford had raised so much of his money after he was elected. So that also kind of tells you that no one thought the guy would get elected in the first place.
Right.
If he didn't raise much money, you would think that, okay, we'll give the guy we think is going to get elected the cash, and
Right.
so. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets reelected. I mean, he's been stripped of all his powers now, essentially.
Yeah. He both
Toronto.
some. Yeah. It's I could never understand where the line was drawn, but yeah, they definitely stripped him of some.
Anyways, there was a lot. That was the year of Rob Ford, and hopefully 2014 doesn't become...
When is the mayoral election?
I believe it's in the fall.
It's in the fall. So yeah, I think it very well could be the year of him again. That's going to be 3 seasons worth of him campaigning and keeping his face in the news.
It'll be interesting. So, wasn't it the... No, I wonder if there will be any other charges that come up too between now and then, because there's a lot of talk in Toronto that, there were a couple of people got murdered.
Yeah.
I don't want to allude to that, but I don't know. But
Well, I mean, yeah, it definitely is tied up in the video. People involved in the video. There was deaths around there. So yeah, I mean, it's not that crazy. Not saying he had anything to do with it, but there's a connection of some sort through somebody. I mean, wanting that video not to see the light of day, more than likely.
So speaking of videos, the other thing that came up in 2013 that was a pretty big news story was the NSA. And Edward Snowden's coming out and revealing everything that was going on, essentially, with spying on corporations, on people. So I bought myself this week a Google Nexus 5. I'm going to turn it on for a sec. And one of the observations I have on this is it's always listening to you.
Okay.
Were you aware of that?
No.
So you turn it on. I'm not pressing anything. And you just go, okay, Google,
Right.
text Trevor. Hello,
Which Trevor?
Cavanagh.
What's the message?
Hello, Trevor.
Here's your message. Do you want to send it?
Yes.
Sending message.
Okay. So
phone on me.
my point here is these fucking things are always listening to us.
Right.
Like how mad and insane is this?
Yeah, I'll grant you that. That you can't disable that.
Well, no. So
do you even use that feature? That's something I never use.
I don't think all cell phones do this.
I don't think so either.
Usually, but it's kind of like a sign into the future.
Yeah.
But also, are these things listening to us all day long?
They definitely could be, I guess.
They can be. Like in the old spy days, they used to put wires in behind the flower pots and shit. You don't have to do it anymore. Everyone has one in their pocket.
Yeah.
I was going through some of the technical documents that Snowden released. And have you gone through the PowerPoints of all the devices that they've infiltrated?
I tried. Oh, God. It was...
Did I send it to you?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yeah.
Man, they were at... So this is more of a technical thing, but they were at the router level. They were at the firewall level. They were, iPhone devices. Like, they're embedded right at the firmware level.
Right.
They're in with the RSA, which is essentially, all encryption, all that, so
right.
They can see through all that. Holy fuck. First of all, as a person who works in technology, I was really impressed at the level that they were able to infiltrate into.
Right.
But also, you almost have I adopted almost a defeatist attitude towards this, because unless you really decide you no longer want to communicate with anyone,
yeah,
you're wide open.
Yes.
So,
and it doesn't look like there's enough people upset about it that the genie will ever go back in the bottle. Even I don't even know if you can put it back in. But
are you pissed off?
I'm a little annoyed because, obviously for the obvious reasons that I believe in privacy, but also that I don't want like this giving credence to every conspiracy theory out there, because there was, people that were saying, oh, they're listening to everything that we're saying. I mean, that did sound kind of hokey, but they also believed in other things that I think are still outlandish and unreasonable, like them faking all the mass shootings and whatever, and
sure,
bringing in amputees to pretend they got their legs blown off and whatever.
But the conspiracy guys who were saying they're listening to everything,
exactly,
they were dead on.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and I guess this is. Well, there seems to be a difference between what can happen in the kind of the internet world, the computer world, and the meat world. I think in that it's easier for things to stay a secret in the computer world because it's so difficult to understand. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why whenever it came out, it didn't have the same sort of impact as if. In the 60s, somebody said that all your phones were tapped, because everybody knew from spy movies what a phone tap meant and what it did. But whenever they're talking about, they're monitoring metadata, I mean, I think you lose half your audience right there, because they don't really know what that means. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem like a really big threat, or they just fall into that, well, I'm not doing anything wrong and there's nothing I need to worry about. Or they follow follow, what do you call that in the dog race? What do they put to get them to run? The rabbit, is that it? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. The lure, and the big lure is about, oh well, he's a traitor and he should be prosecuted, and that's the storyline you're supposed to follow and be completely enthralled with, instead of worrying about what actually is happening that's impacting you directly.
So let me ask you, have you changed your ways, your behavior online, since finding out that essentially everything that you do online is an open book?
No, I haven't.
I mean, same here. I mean, I bought myself a Google Nexus 5 this week, which is probably one of the most open devices out there, because we know that Google and the NSA are linked in. So I guess I'm having a defeatist attitude towards it. I'm just kind of caving in, and the one thing is maybe I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to watch out what I say.
Yeah.
So I'll keep it to. Although I'm doing a podcast talking about this, so
Yeah. If only they.
I just if only they actually listened to that.
Yeah.
Because
And I'll be like, I'll try and cover my tracks in very practical scenarios.
like how?
If I'm downloading something illegally, I'll go through oh my God, I'm having a great time with IP spoofer.
Like torrents?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But
Okay.
when you can spoof your IP so they can't trace it back to who you are.
Sure, but what if they're running the IP spoofing?
Sure, yeah,
I mean,
I
there's
know.
a lot of speculation that they're the ones running the anonymous sites, and there was talk, I was reading recently, that they quite possibly are running some of the top porn sites. So they're not only to do like a kind of like a psych profile on what you like to look at.
Right.
And what your preferences are sexually, so they know they can build more of an idea of what you're doing.
Right.
By the way,
And as ludicrous as that sounds, because it does, I mean, when you say it, that sounds crazy, but sexual orientation being used against you is a huge, huge device used during McCarthyism, right? I mean, it was like homosexuality equaled communist. Then they somehow equated the two, or you could just be threatened with it enough to make somebody, they wouldn't have to come out and make allegations. You could just use that against somebody to get them to keep them from doing stuff that you didn't want. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, and there's so much more than just homosexuality now that's readily available that you might not want broadcast to the world. So that's actually a good point.
Well,
all I'm saying is that I'll actually take some steps, whether they're effective or not. I'll take some steps when I'm downloading stuff that might be when it's basically stealing. I mean, downloading stuff that I'm not paying for obviously is it's not a fair transaction. So I tend to try and cover my tracks when I do that, but I don't do it very often. But yeah, that's about the only time I do it, when it's like a kind of 1 degree of separation from doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't really feel guilty about my porn streaming habits.
all right.
Although I wouldn't want somebody looking through my bookmark history or whatever, or whatever my histories.
How about this? You're looking at your device and they're taking pictures of you whacking off to MILF porn.
Yeah.
And they're building we've got fucking 352 pictures of Trevor whacking off the MILFs.
Yeah. Now, originally, I was of the thought that the needle in the haystack thing, if they're collecting that much information on that many people, the chances of it coming up that I've done something or you've done something is so it's so small that we have nothing to worry about. But I've since then kind of modified that opinion to that's not what it's for. It's for if somebody starts to kind of step out of line, they can then focus in on you.
Well, how about
and do stuff? I mean, not even counting the data mining and all that and trying to figure out behaviors. I really don't know if they're being that proactive with it. I think a lot of it is just so you can have a dossier if you want to try, and if you're involved in activist groups or whatever, that they can just make your life a lot more difficult, because they obviously do that. I mean, that's proven. We haven't seen them using these techniques before.
Here in Ottawa, especially, like we live in the capital of Canada, so a lot of the jobs here in Ottawa are government jobs.
Right.
And you and I both work in tech, so there are a lot of consulting gigs working for the government, and a lot of these consulting gigs require clearances.
Right.
The enhanced clearances, secret clearances, top secret clearances, which I've had in the past. Now, they could easily go back and look at my past history and say, like, there's nothing in there that would, but that could be an example of you personally where that could be brought against you.
Yes.
And you work in tech as well.
Yeah. Now, again, to flip
something to be aware of.
Yeah. Now, again, I think with that, the idea would be that if they applied that standard for security clearance, then very few people would ever get security clearance. I think it would only. Do you know what I mean? Like enough people have their skeletons in the closet that you know. So I really don't think they would use it in a proactive way.
You don't think?
No, I think they would use it if they wanted to keep certain people from getting it legally. They would use it in a very, very unfair way. That if there was somebody that it was the wrong color that passed all the checks to get security clearance, they could all of a sudden dig into this dossier and, use it to unfairly, judge people. But you couldn't, if you did it to everybody. I think everybody has enough skeletons in their closet that they just would end up, if you know what I mean.
A bunch of damn skeletons.
Right. I mean, because you're not, like marijuana being one thing.
Oh.
I mean, it's so predominant, yet you're not allowed to have smoked that to get a top secret clearance. Or it's one of the questions anyway.
So this applies. Marijuana is a good one. When I lived in California, so here in Canada we have health insurance through the government, so that's not an issue. But in the States, you have to go out and get your own health insurance, right? Or I had to. It wasn't through my employer. I had to get it myself when I was working in down there. And was it Blue Cross or one of the big ones? I called up and I had a phone interview. Like, do you have diabetes? Do you ever have a heart condition? You ever have this and that? And one of the questions was, have you ever consumed an illegal drug like marijuana?
Right.
And I said,
so lumped in with all there's meth, crack, and marijuana.
But they kind of they went easy on me. Have you ever taken like aspirin? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, have you ever taken marijuana? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to inform you, Mr. Humplik, that we're gonna have to stop this interview right away. That you do not qualify for health insurance.
Oh God.
That was stopped immediately because I had smoked pot.
Really?
Yeah.
Which then just means that,
So I called someone else and I lied.
And you lie, yeah.
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 So I was, the naive Canadian who had no idea.
Now compare those two things from a health insurance point of view. Yeah, I could see them using that because it's in their benefit to not cover people because they don't have to pay out if something goes wrong. So that's why they're so stringent. They can set the rules. But with something like a security clearance, for instance, you need people to be able to do those jobs. So if you set the standard so high that nobody qualifies, you've kind of screwed yourself. So there has to be some sort of latitude. So just specifically with the security clearance thing, that's why I don't think that they would do that sort of depth, because there's an advantage to letting people that aren't a big risk, even though they might look at the wrong type of porn and have looked at 4chan or something, that they could eliminate certain people that they don't like to begin with because of that, but not other people.
So imagine this, though. Imagine if they do scan and they only go for perfection. People who've never been have done anything. Imagine how fucking boring an office that would be to work in.
Yeah.
Like, to work with people who've never smoked pot, don't drink, don't look at porn. My God, get a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'd shoot myself.
Yeah. It's, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. The public sector is pretty, the old school public sector is pretty safe and boring, and I don't imagine there's a lot of rock and roll going on in any of the places I work or have worked with the older generation. I'm sure they're fine, but like the younger generation, that's where it becomes trickier. Like you wouldn't be able to fill in people unless they're all from like the young conservative club or something. Like they're just, I just can't imagine it. Yeah. Who would they be? By
the way, I don't know if you saw, but there was an article that came out just a few days ago that the Canadian government was, and we always suspected this, but they are in cahoots with the NSA. So what's going on with the NSA? The equivalent's going on here. They're building a huge data center not that far from here. Just like a few miles away from here, that huge data center that's going up.
Right.
That's going to be basically central intelligence for all this stuff. And it's great if you work in tech, I guess.
Yeah.
The amount of money that's going to be spent on this. The other point I want to make about Google's and kind of where this is going is Google has an investment in a company called 23andMe, I'm not sure if you're aware of them. So what 23andMe do is they take, you do a blood test and you give them your blood, and basically what they're doing is a genetic profile on your blood.
Oh, good.
And the sales pitch is to connect you from a genealogy point of view. So, hey, and they also give you like a celebrity that you're connected with.
Right.
So you pay $99, send your blood, and you go into the database, and so essentially they have your DNA profile. And so imagine moving forward, like, oh, you have a disposition for cancer, or you have a disposition for some disease or whatever it is. Now Google can turn around and take this data and market it directly to big pharma and to whomever, to be able to get to you. So it's not just it's reaching the point now where it's going way beyond just the emails or whatever that we're reading. They're going to that level. Right. They're doing DNA profiles.
Yeah. With that, voluntarily, getting you voluntarily to do it.
Voluntarily.
Yeah. And that was always the big joke about Facebook and social media is like how much work we're doing for the NSA by logging every place we've been, even if they didn't have phones that are listening. You're checking in all the time. Well, not you specifically, but so many people are saying everywhere that they're going, and like they're basically documenting their whole life to make it easier to track them if they wanted to, which obviously they do.
I mean, this is next level, though.
Yeah.
DNA profile.
Yeah,
they'll be able to market to you based on your DNA.
Yeah. I don't know. There was something going. I mean, it's an old Carl Sagan video in an interview. I forget if it was Charlie Rose or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But he was talking about science and kind of governance, I guess, and saying how important it was to have the public knowledgeable enough about how science and computer science works so that we can make ethical decisions and ethical laws around them. Because if we don't know it, then it's left up to the people that are in charge of those companies and politicians that might not have any stake in the game at all, that are just trying to keep somebody happy, and they're the ones that are making these laws that are easier to exploit us. So
I mean, that's what's going on right now.
Right. So the point, I think going back to the point where people don't seem angry about it, that's what has to change. That there has to be some sort of way of explaining it to people without calling them stupid. Which is hard to do for the smart computer people. It's really difficult to not take a high and mighty approach, or for the conspiracy theorist people, it's really hard to not do the "well, I told you so" and whatever. But none of that really matters if you can't start communicating to regular people and let them know where this actually does impact them and how it could be negative. Then we're just completely screwed. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll never have a chance to cut it off. We might not have a chance now. Like, it might be too late. Who knows? But I don't know if you.
I'm starting to think it is too late.
Yeah.
I'm actually really starting to think it's too late.
Like, I don't even know how you'd begin to enforce or begin to start to roll things back once they've gotten to a certain point. It's like you can't uncreate the atom bomb. Like. Well,
I mean, you can buy a piece of land and move out and start being self-sustained, lead a self-sustained lifestyle where you grow your own food, and it's just like say fuck you to the rest of the world. Don't communicate with them anymore.
Yeah,
unless you come over and
but to use the Lord of the Rings analogy, even the hobbits eventually got affected by the dark stuff that was going on around them. I mean, I know it's a horrible analogy, but it's still sort of true. Even if you find a patch of land, if the country goes to the horse patch because of all this stuff, I mean, that'll eventually impact you. It'll eventually. I mean, if it all turns to crap, you lose all privacy, and you become that sort of society. You can't live on your own forever.
Boy, this is really it's a happy one today. Huh?
Yeah.
We're back. Aren't you glad we're back, people?
Yeah, and I've had people like explain like The Road, the book and the movie The Road, and about that, and about how some, and like how historically some civilizations got to the point where it broke down and they started cannibalizing and stuff like that, and it was like. And it was kind of just drawing a parallel between what we were talking about and that we just get to the point where it just all breaks down because we can't enforce anything anymore. And next thing you know, people are eating one another, and it's like, oh, I don't need to hear that.
So how close have you come to quitting Facebook and Twitter and just saying fuck you to social media and just giving up?
No, I haven't.
No. Because I've started contemplating it now. I'm reaching the point where I'm starting to not like people.
Oh yeah, well I'm there. I'll say I'm there with you on that. But
I'm sure there are people who don't like me either. Just based on my social media contributions. But whatever.
From a protecting yourself point of view, I get that. But I don't know long term how effective that is. But I don't believe that taking your voice out of a dialogue is the right way to get things accomplished. I mean, if you have to somehow turn public opinion a certain way, which I think you kind of have to do, then you need to have the right voices there. I wish I was a better voice. I know I'm not, so that's where I do whatever I can, but I like listening to people that I think are the right voices.
You've had some nice battles online, which I love.
Oh, thank you very much. But yeah, they're very immature and whatever.
Well, but they're fun to read, though.
Okay,
but they're also, I've learned from them as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks.
So what's your latest one?
Oh, I don't want to get into it.
No? Okay.
I don't think so.
I mean, you attack like right-wing politicians and members of the media, and those are fun.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, though, is that it is because then I also read a lot of those people that I don't attack, and I follow them, and they just do that. They're doing the same thing back with like really weak photoshops of whatever, and it's just like this turns into this echo chamber of insults being hurled. And at some point in time, there's got to have to be some sort of
real dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just
acknowledging some sort of gray area between us and whatever. But it is really enjoyable to scratch the itch when somebody's really been an asshole and you feel like you get a chance to whatever. But I don't know if it helps. I think is what I'm saying. It's like,
does it make you feel better?
Oh, sure.
Or does it raise your blood pressure to the point where this is becoming unhealthy?
It fluctuates between the two.
Or both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some that are just so genuine about it, and there's no real comedy to it. It's just a really evil, vicious attack on ideas that aren't theirs. Straw man, and it's just so exhausting to read. It's like, I can't imagine somebody getting up in the morning, stretching their arms and going, I'm going to take on the opposite ideology all day. It's like, oh my God.
That's the one thing is I find people who use comedy to make a point tend to be more effective with me.
Right.
Because I'm getting a laugh out of information that I'm reading along with it. So instead of being a preachy kind of style, and I try to stop myself from being the preachy thing, because often I'll be pissed off at someone or whatever, and then I'll put a bitchy comment, and then I kind of go back and go, fuck, I've got to stop myself from doing this. Like, Jesus, Glenn, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think the best. I'm not. Just from a comedy point of view, not that I'm in that realm at all, but
no, absolutely.
When Dennis Miller, who I loved when I was growing up, I mean, he was like my hero doing like Saturday Night Live, doing the Weekend Update and everything. Mm-hmm. After 9/11, whenever he became a partisan comedian, the comedy disappeared. It just became like he had a point to make, and he tried to dress it up into a joke, and it was just so completely different from what he was doing before, and it was just so, and it's so depressing to see that. And it's like, I think that the people that I respect comedically have enough latitude to be able to find the humor in something absurd because they're open, whereas on the other side, people are trying to make something they disagree with absurd, and it's not the same. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
When are you jumping on stage?
Okay. Never mind. Next question. Someday. I'll humiliate myself someday, and I will let you know all about it.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
So getting off NSA, but back to the device. So I bought this phone this week because just over a year ago, I picked up a Samsung Galaxy 3 phone.
Okay.
And with most of these phones, you get a 1-year warranty. And so 1 year and 3 days after purchasing the phone,
Yeah.
it went kaput on me.
Sure.
Sure. It planned obsolescence at its very best.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for a phone. By the way, I'm never going to buy a Samsung product again because, anyways, that's the way. I'm bitter about these things, and I have a long memory.
Yeah.
But I had an iPhone previously, and I was
And
thinking,
you didn't find it as planned in its obsolescence? I mean...
No, that was more of a stupid thing because I was doing by the way, a tip: if you have an iPhone, never do an iOS update because that just puts you in a world of hurt, and your thing is going to become slow and won't work anymore.
Yeah, it's not like it has all this extra hardware to be able to handle a higher OS. I mean, that's the whole plan, is you have to buy a better phone to run the newer...
That's right.
Right? Like
and you can't go back unless you do some hacky type of way and it doesn't work half the time. You might break it anyways. So I started looking at... So yeah, Apple does have planned... I think they're getting sued for planned obsolescence, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So I have... I went back to my old iPhone 4 for a while, and I put iOS 7 on it, which was a huge mistake because now that thing is crawling and it was unusable as a device. So I bought this Google device. But along the way, I was looking at pricing on iPhones, and because I was thinking about getting another iPhone.
Yeah.
And the pricing on an iPhone was like $819. Because now I'm still stuck on a contract. With
Right,
my
okay, when you're
Samsung
getting one
device,
without the contract,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have had to buy one outright.
Yeah.
And so $819 for an iPhone 5S, and the iTouch device with 32 gigs was like $299. Mm-hmm. Can someone please fucking explain to me why there's a $520, whatever it is, something along the lines of between the iTouch and the iPhone, when essentially they're almost the same device, except for a few extra chips and maybe a little more, battery life, because those chips require
The iTouch is around the same size too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a 500. Like, are people that stupid that they're willing to spend an extra $500 and something on? Is that what it is?
I guess I think when they roll it up with the contracts and stuff, it's harder to notice. I don't think a lot of people. I've no idea. I've never understood how i products can update so frequently and have people buy the new ones just to keep up to date. I've never understood that, like how that's an ideal. But
The Google device, which is, by the way, really, besides the NSA link up, a really cool device, like it works great, was $349 outright.
Right.
Unlocked directly from Google on the site. So anyways, I was like, oh my God, like really, is Apple screwing people over that much? And I like the iPhone. I think it's a really good device, but man, like there's having a, it's I just felt like I don't like being ripped off. That's a big thing. And I felt like, oh my God, spending $819 on a phone for a similar device that's like $200 and something, it's just someone's getting fucked.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see it. Like because they changed the laws here in Canada, right? We don't have 3-year plans anymore. We only have 2-year plans.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so if I want the change to get the iPhone, I would have had to buy the other phone out, and I would have had to change my plan to like $105 a month.
Right.
Like from 60.
Okay.
Which I'm currently paying.
Right.
To get. So anyway.
That's all you're paying?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, by the way, this is a trick. If you call your local telecom guy,
Yeah,
company, just ask for their their department when you start threatening to leave them.
Okay, yeah.
And they put you
They'll
in a
give you the good
special
deals.
group.
Yeah.
And they start giving you like all kinds of great deals.
Right.
So I've got, like half price cable. I've got
Okay.
for a year.
Okay.
So then what I do is, oh, great. And then at the end of the year, then I call back and I tell them to put me on the basic mode
Right.
for 2 months. And then you call again.
And
threaten to
you're
leave.
sick of it. Yeah.
I put it in my agenda. So I call it now, like on a semi-annual basis to get the greatest deals. Like
Right.
don't just keep on rolling with them because you're
Right.
just getting reamed.
Yeah.
You can actually get like great deals by doing that. Little
No, that's a good idea. That's
Humplik tip.
okay.
Is everything okay with the?
Everything is okay right now. Yeah, just a little water break.
Okay. Do you want to feed them or?
Oh, okay for a bit. If they start making noise, we'll do it.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Hey, so last night I was sitting down with my wife and we were watching the news together. And there was a story on the Sochi Olympics. And, it was just another one of those ongoing anti-gay Russian stories.
Right.
So my wife announced that she was going to ban the Olympics this year. She wasn't going to watch them. Right.
No Olympics in the house.
No Olympics in the house, which, as a...
Oh my God, there's hockey for you. I was about to say.
Yes.
I was going to say
This is a
Winter
problem.
Olympics. What's the big deal? But I forgot about hockey. Yeah.
Like, my wife, for my wife to announce that she's banning the Olympics is sort of like me announcing I'm banning knitting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't care about the Olympics. I don't care about knitting.
Right.
It's about the equivalent in our household.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And I can see where this might be an issue.
Yes.
Does she make a good point, though, that banning the Olympics with everything going on in Russia, is that a valid point on her part?
Yeah. I would think so. I mean, what other power do you have to influence it? I mean, that's our only role in this is to sit and watch it on TV.
So is it unfair?
To give it,
but is it unfair to the athletes who have nothing to do with politics?
they have nothing to do with politics. Does watching them influence their performance or what they get out of it if they win or not? I don't know. I mean, if somebody gets gold, they still get gold. You're going to read about it the next day. They're still going to be a hero. That isn't going to change whether you're watching it or not.
So should we all boycott then and not watch this?
Well, let's say people boycotted and it was really successful, and people were like saying, "Oh, they have to change their ways," whatever. What do you think would be the worst case scenario for the athletes? Do you think they're gonna think, "Oh my God, my parents didn't even watch my performance," or you know what I mean? Like, I think I don't see the athlete angle being all that upsetting. They're probably in an awkward enough position as it is, because
it might ruin their opportunity to go for sponsorships, because if no one watched it, no one will know who they are, and that might hurt them in their future, because a lot of these athletes, especially at the Olympic level, they make their money from sponsorships, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it would go unreported if somebody did well or whatever, or if people are just watching replays on the news or YouTube videos or whatever. I think we're at a time where you'd still be able to get to see. In fact, that probably, to be honest with you, I bet you this year, boycott or not, most of the highlights and heroics I see won't be live anyway. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Like, it's probably going to be, I'll read about it, I'll see a YouTube video of it. Wow, that was amazing. The person will still be famous. I shouldn't say the person will still be famous, but probably as famous as if everybody was watching. Athletes expecting the athletes to actually do something about it, that's really tough, because I mean, you only have a certain window of competition in your life, and passing up an entire Olympiad worth of opportunity is a big deal. But from a viewer point of view.
I mean, that happened in, 1980 when the
was
Olympics
Moscow,
were,
yeah.
Moscow, right?
Yeah.
The Americans didn't go there. And they didn't. The Russians didn't come to the States in '84.
They didn't come to L.A., yeah.
L.A., right.
Yeah, that was a shit show. That's why they got so many medals, I believe, back on home turf. The Americans got an incredible amount of medals.
Oh, that's right, because the
Russians
whole Eastern Bloc
yeah.
didn't come over.
Yeah, and I think in the 80s they also tried to make another American Olympic Games. I forget what it was called. I remember really roughly that they tried to make something to kind of fill that void that the Americans could still compete in. I wish I could remember what it was called. But it was just one of those, media creations to try and fill the... I've already said fill the void. But I guess to try and make it fair on the athletes, but that totally is not what it was about. It was about, you knew you had a lot of eyeballs that wanted to watch it, and you're trying to cash in on that. So
will you be watching this year?
I haven't decided yet. Probably not. I mean, Winter Olympics were never the biggest deal. I would probably still watch the hockey.
Okay, that's probably what I'll be watching.
Yeah.
But most likely not at my home now.
Yeah.
So maybe if you invite me over.
Yeah. So with the time change, what time is an evening game then if it's in Russia?
Like an 8-hour difference, I believe.
Yeah.
So that means an evening game will be...
It'll be in the middle of the day?
Middle of the day. So we won't even be able to watch them anyways.
Yeah, unless you take time off work, which...
there's nothing worse than watching a sports... like a game that you know the score for already. Because if they're competing in the afternoon and the game is broadcast that night, we'll already know that Canada lost or won, so who cares?
Now, people that watch Premier League soccer or whatever, they already have that down to an art. They've already figured out who to block, who not to listen to, so they PVR it and they can get home and watch it as if it's live. Because they've had experience, and it happens year after year after year after year, that you can't go to all the important games in the middle of the day. So, but we have no experience. So yeah, we'd be completely screwed.
No, I have experience. Have
you narrowed down who to block, who not to talk to?
Oh no, I don't open my devices now.
Okay.
So I have I set my I'm a big hockey fan. I've watched the Ottawa Senators for almost every game. So usually what I do is I PVR the games, but the games start at 7:30, and I'm putting my daughter to bed and doing the bedtime routine and all that. And
so you're offsetting by an hour or so.
An hour and a half usually. Okay. So essentially,
have you pretty much caught up by the? No, I guess you couldn't. Once you go through the commercials, are you almost catching up?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I'll make it to the end if it goes into overtime, and I'm able to watch it live, which is a treat.
Great. Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
But often now I have it to a science where if you can't reach me between the hours of like 7 and 9, that's because there's a hockey game going on.
Right.
And I've cut myself off from the world because I need to not know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's different than if you like...
Oh, 8 hours. Yeah, there's no way that...
I mean, because then you're in the office.
Yeah,
and you're going to hear somebody talking across the cubicle, and you're going to be like, and they're going to blow it.
Yeah, that's
somebody watching on the internet and blow it for you, and it's because it's such a big deal. Whereas like with the soccer thing, it's you don't hear as many people. There's more of a understanding amongst people that they don't.
Around.
Yeah, so they can usually shut it down, or they quickly find out who the loudmouths might be and tell them to shut the hell up. Yeah. But this is everyone. I mean, it's even the people that don't like hockey will probably be saying, "Oh, we won," and it's like. Yeah, ruin it for you.
So, why are Russians so goddamn homophobic? I don't understand. I never really realized it until all this stuff came on. Now you're realizing, like, are you guys stuck in 50 years behind time? Like, what's wrong with you?
I think that's kind of it. That is kind of it. They are in a lot of ways just figuring certain stuff out, and they're going through the I'm not saying going through the growing pains or trying to give them any sort of pass on it, but it's like it almost is like they're trying to figure stuff out for the first time, and they're going through all the same ugly mistakes that other cultures have went through and learned from. And it's at the same time, a guy was hunger striking in Utah for
I saw that this week.
Yeah, to deny the right for gays to marry because his state was giving it to them, and it got stayed because of that. And now that was the most uninspiring act of disobedience I've ever read about. And so, I mean, how backwards are they really? I mean, when you think about that, there's in the most powerful country in the world, there's a large group of people that are involved with the Tea Party movement that would be very happy to maybe get back to more anti-gay stuff. They don't want to dress it up like that, but I mean, when they do things like that and their actual leaders are backing it up, people they're high up within the party are backing up, like Phil Robertson, whatever his name is, talking about it not being natural or whatever. It's I mean, how far back are they really? It's just, I think, a matter of progressive people have to eventually start taking over and starting to move things forward.
Yeah, I never really realized it was that far behind.
Yeah,
just from a top level moving down.
And it's baffling because, like, when you read like Putin's, I never pronounce it right, but when he wrote an op-ed in the Times about American exceptionalism and stuff like that, it was like I was like, wow. I mean, that was a really well written, in my opinion, thing to read. And then you get to the end of it, and you're like, and then how are you still so close-minded about something like that? You know, when you're talking about world events with a fairly open mind, it would seem.
So I wonder if the Olympics are serving as a wake up type of moment for them, or it's just going to go right back. Like Pussy Riot, a couple of the members of the band Pussy Riot were released this week or the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks
under
ago.
an amnesty, quote unquote, type of thing. Essentially a PR move on their government's part
Before the Olympics.
right?
Yeah.
Of course, just to kind of reduce the amount of friction going on. It's
But that I mean, at least that is something, though. Even a PR move that way is still something. It's better than playing complete hardball and
Really?
whatever. Which
it's so
I mean, well,
insincere and really, I always feel dirty when I see a government do something like that. Because that the only reason they're doing it is a PR move,
sure.
and it doesn't change anything. Or does it?
Well, that's just it. It is still a chink in the armor. I mean, think of it, if you are somebody that believes that they should be jailed, believes in the whole gay thing, you probably think this is a sign of weakness.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, people read so much into a fucking handshake at Mandela's funeral, about, that's a sign of weakness because somebody shook somebody's hand.
Yeah, okay.
It's like they read so much into it. So I think it does start to kind of fracture the base a bit when they do give they give a bit. It's better than not. It's better than being completely stonewalling and keeping them in there. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous from the get-go. I mean, the pictures of them being in the courtroom in that enclosed box, like they were Hannibal Lecter. Like, it was just the whole thing was a farce from beginning to end. So it's like they're musicians. It's like it's ridiculous.
One thing, going from Russia to another nation, and I just remembered this week, CAR, Central African Republic.
Oh, yeah.
That caught your attention this week.
Yeah.
God, what a fucking mess.
Yeah. Any African...
Did you watch the things I sent you?
Not all of them.
Okay.
I watched the Vice ones.
And then the Vice ones are just horrific to watch.
Yeah. They were, really eye-opening. But...
Yeah, if you have a chance to watch the documentary I sent you, they called is it the Ambassador?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and I didn't get a chance to look at it.
If you have a chance, it's a Danish reporter who essentially goes there under the pretense, like he buys himself credentials with the government to become an ambassador, and this is to kind of move in the blood diamonds industry, and he's there essentially under the pretense that he's a member of the government, but he just bought himself these credentials, right? And it was amazing how corrupted the government is, and what a mess of a country.
Yeah, it was Yeah, it's pretty depressing to see. And again, it's just so. I mean, there's some things where it's easy to say, well, we don't care because there's nothing we can really do, and there's some truth to that. But at the same time, it's much easier to do that when the people are brown. I mean, like there's no way that doesn't factor into it. If that many kids were dying and they were white and looked remotely like us, it would be all over the place. Yeah. But it's not, and we're just so desensitized to seeing kids starving on TV, and it's an annoyance now. You flick the channel, you don't want to see it, you don't want to be bothered with it. So we're just so desensitized to it, and yeah, it's and the religions, it's Christianity and there are two main religions in it, if I'm remembering correctly. Oh, I'm just drawing blanks all over today. But anyway, there's a Christian portion to the war too. So
it's just such a sad state. I probably never told you the story. When I went on a USO tour in Djibouti in 2003.
Wow.
And I went to.
So this was because of the show connection.
The show connection. Yeah. I was invited as a guest to the main person going.
Gotcha.
But anyways, I was kind of like the tag along. But I got to go to. I went to Bahrain and Dubai and Baghdad, and one of the countries that I went to was Djibouti. Djibouti is this small nation in northern Africa that's next to Somalia and Ethiopia. It's a tiny little, and the placement essentially is it's right on the ocean, so the American ships can go there. And we were visiting the troops in Djibouti, and so there's the huge military camp. And I'm guessing that they just bought their way there, just knowing that how poor the country is.
Right.
Hey, let's put a camp, and it's gonna bring you a lot of business and all that. So we were given a tour outside the camp, and just drove around, and the shanties, and I got to see how people live, and there's essentially garbage everywhere, and just goats running around eating the garbage, and people are drinking the milk from goats that eat garbage bags for their main. It's a sickening and sad existence, and when you're there watching that and having kids begging us for water, and it was one hell of a cultural experience. It's one thing to see it on TV, but it's another thing to smell it and visualize it and feel it. And one observation I had, there were these stations, and there were people, and this was in the afternoon, and there were people that were like lined up, and there were other people just kind of like hanging out and looked stoned and shit. And then what I didn't realize was they were flying in every day this thing called khat, which is a drug, and I believe it's an amphetamine, and so it's like the bark of a plant that you chew on. Okay. And it chills out the population, right? And it's grown, I believe, in Ethiopia, so they fly it in. It's right next door, so they fly it in every day, and the government disperses that to the people.
Right.
So it's cheaper to give than food. Right. And basically, by giving them these drugs, it kind of chills them out. Right. You know what I mean? So they're not revolting and not getting pissed off. They're just fucking stoned, and they don't do anything besides get stoned every day and die from starvation. Right. Shocking to me. Like I had no idea, and then that was explained to me what they're doing. I'm like, really? Is that how governments maintain powers, by drugging up their people all day long? And this is a shocking existence, It's like, oh. So then watching the Vice documentary on CAR is pretty eye-opening as well. Yeah. You had a good go this week. Oh, so the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, just moving on, was a Rolling Stone article that you sent me this week called 5 Economic Reforms Millennials Should Be Fighting For. And so maybe...
What was your take on it?
Well, it was so the points, let's go through the points. One was guaranteed work for everyone. Social Security for all. Take back the land. Make everything owned by everybody. And the fifth was a public bank in every state. So this was American-based, but
Yeah.
a lot of these same things can apply to Canada.
Yeah, and the fifth one, the whole banking thing is a little bit foreign to me, so that one didn't resonate very much. But.
So isn't this what he was writing about, communism?
Well, yeah. I mean, as a form of it,
So let's
I think, and as something to work towards. I don't think it's moving closer to that direction. I mean, you have people that call having healthcare full socialism, right? Where it isn't. It moves towards that direction. And I think that's the same sort of idea. I mean, you're going to get labeled with those sort of concepts. The real question in my mind is that, would those points, right now we know who's being served by the system. I mean that's pretty clear, and we know that they took certain steps to do it, and they weren't laid out in an article of these are the 5 things that we're going to do to improve our profits as companies, because if they did, people would probably freak out about that. But for us to move towards something that's better for us, it's not like I 100% agree with all of them. Like the idea of guaranteed work, or a job for everybody and guaranteed work. I mean, they sound pretty outlandish, but
that's impossible.
The guaranteed income thing, they did an experiment in Canada with it where they gave a guaranteed income to an entire town. And,
really?
Yeah, and it worked actually pretty well, but it didn't. I think it was in Manitoba. Oh, I should have done my research, but they definitely did it as an experiment, and it wasn't like then the productivity all of a sudden dropped off the map and what everybody says is going to happen didn't necessarily happen. And conversely, I mean, they say that basically what they say is poverty is an incentive to become rich, right? And that clearly doesn't work either. I think those two concepts are pretty flawed. That money is the only incentive to work hard, and the fact that having a decentive is the only thing that'll make you. So not only there has to be an incentive and a decentive, I think, is their point. That there has to be poverty is kind of nipping at your heels if you don't work hard enough, and money and being rich is enough of a carrot in front of you to do it.
So let me bring one of them up.
Yeah.
The Social Security for all.
Good. That was another one I wasn't very good at. So yeah.
So part of it was raising minimum wages.
Yes.
So I know here in Canada the minimum wage is about $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And there was talk that some people are trying to push to have it raised to $15 an hour, which they feel would raise the lower income people to above the poverty line. It would take an increase from $10 to $15 to put them from below poverty to above the poverty line. And
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that one.
Yeah.
You know what? If it means the CEO of McDonald's taking like a smaller bonus at the end of the year, and every VP taking smaller bonuses or whatever, and there's a little bit less profit, way to go.
Right.
I think great idea.
Right.
But to elevate everyone's sort of unemployment benefits to the point, or welfare to the point where there's no need to work, like how do you feel about that?
I didn't that one. Like I said, I didn't read the examples of where they were talking about it.
Because I think the idea was to compensate, to put everyone at the same level,
Right.
from a financial point of view. So everyone makes a minimum amount of money every year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely isn't something that would happen with a snap of fingers and all of a sudden would come in. I mean, it would be, again, something you'd try to work towards increasing it. I doubt you'd ever get there, But I think a move in that direction would definitely be better than a move away from it.
Man, everything is moving away from this. Although,
Just it.
The state of California did announce, I think, this week that they're raising their minimum wage to $12 an hour.
Right.
But
that's okay.
But how many workers in the state of California are actually immigrants who are working without a visa and working in the fields to support, the food industry?
No, yeah, exactly. Or just rich people's housekeepers, and Look, I'm assuming. I mean, that's something I totally got from TV, but I'm assuming that isn't completely inaccurate. That that having an undocumented worker as a servant happens. I would assume that's just good, sound monetary advice.
Anyways, I thought it was a decent article, but it was such a wishful thinking type of dreamscape that not realistic in any. I felt by reading it. I don't know.
Right. Well, whenever they, everybody likes the, when you're trying to shoot for the moon. If you miss, you can catch a star and all that crap. Whenever it comes to trying to enrich yourself. But then whenever you're trying to look at something for the people in general, people get really, really, really pessimistic about it and how believable it will be. And I question where that gut reaction comes from, how we get programmed to be so skeptical about anything that might improve everybody's lot. Because it definitely isn't necessarily for our benefit or for the benefit of people that that are making minimum wage, whom there are a lot of. They're not the people that are coming up with these concepts that are making us react negatively towards it. So it definitely is that we're being bombarded with a certain way of, these are acceptable goals and these are acceptable ways to achieve the goals. Anything that falls outside of those are just not even worth talking about. I agree. I don't think they're realistic, but I think if you went 25% in that direction, 50% in that direction, I mean, things would be so much better off. But you can't set the goal as 25 or 50% in that direction. Otherwise, you'd only get 10% or 0, or just get shot down. Mm-hmm. Any move in that direction, as again, to use the example of just trying to give people health care in the richest country in the world, got such a negative reaction. You have to wonder you might as well go for broke with any of your policies, because even a slight one is going to be taken as communism. Mm-hmm. So you might as well just go for gold and hopefully get enough people enthralled by the idea and actually believe that they might deserve better than they have, and maybe they can get somewhere. I mean, I keep on saying we. It's not my country, but it's. Man,
we really take it for granted here in Canada.
We do, but it also often is a precursor of what's coming down the pipe for us. The bad stuff, the bad policies in the States often are taken as an example here, and we try to follow along, especially with a conservative government now. So that's why I'm so invested in the idea of trying to fight that there, because it's like if positive things happen there, I think that there's less likelihood that we're going to backtrack as much as we have been lately, because I think we've fallen behind.
Are you watching House of Cards?
No.
Oh, you haven't watched it? Oh, okay.
No, not yet. I should. Yeah. I understand. I don't know if I can handle another. I don't know if I can handle seeing politics in a negative light again.
Oh, it's great though.
You know what I mean?
It's really great.
It's like, do I need every glimmer of hope dashed? I don't know.
I don't watch very much television. Like I watch, I'm a hockey fan and I watch the news, and apart from that, I tend to stick with Netflix for movies and documentaries. I'm a big documentary fan. But every now and then there are a few shows that I'll tap into and start watching, and House of Cards was one of them.
Right.
And first season just ended. Second season is about to start next month. I think you should take it in. It's a fantastic show. Highly recommend it.
It was based on a British show, is that correct?
It was based on a British show, right?
Right.
And there's Kevin Spacey's just amazing. But anyways, it gives really good insight on how it works behind the scenes. Although it's a big drama.
Yeah,
but
it's spruced up.
it's spruced up, but it gives you a good feel about how politics works, especially in Washington D.C.
Or doesn't.
Or isn't, and
Yeah.
I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommend it. So on closing notes, we're
I
beginning.
really blew that last topic. I really felt like I should have had more to bring to the table. Yeah.
2014 is upon us.
Yeah.
What lies ahead this year? What surprises are coming up?
Oh, predictions.
Well, how about for you?
Oh, for me? Oh, that's even harder than his predictions about how the world will go. I think the back to the Rob Ford thing. I think that'll actually probably he'll get reelected, and people will wonder how Toronto can live with the label that will give them. But
And we'll laugh and we'll laugh and we'll laugh.
yeah, like I can't understand. I have a hard time putting myself in the shoes of somebody where everybody else in the world thinks you're stupid, but you somehow build yourself up as they just don't get it. Like, I don't know. I've never been. I've had people think I'm stupid before, lots of times, but not that sort of. The whole world is kind of laughing at you.
Is this embarrassing for Canada in general?
Oh, I guess, but the rest of Canada's laughing as well. I mean, it's like everybody else acknowledges except
but
for
do
them.
Americans know that we're laughing?
Oh, that's their problem if they don't. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. They probably don't. They probably, yeah.
Just think it's like,
But so, yeah, it does look a little bit bad, but
I mean, it has been entertaining in a sad, pathetic type of way.
yeah.
So
And
what else lies ahead? So what else is going to happen this year that we're going to have to talk about? Any predictions?
Are we going to be allowed to talk about the Olympics? All right. I mean, you're not allowed to watch them.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
That's going to be an ongoing debate in
Yeah.
the Humplik Hofstadter household. Mm-hmm. Should be a fun one. Although, mind you, the time difference is going to make it easy.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if certain things happen politically, if somebody makes a gesture, kind of a middle finger to Putin over something,
There's going to be something. There's going to be something. There's going to be an athlete who's going to walk out with a pink flag or the colorful.
So my prediction in that case would be on the female medal podium more than once. Either the gold or silver will kiss or something like that. There'll be some, and it's going to be like two different countries potentially.
God,
it's going to be that'll be like this powerful. I doubt the guys would do it.
Oh God,
it'd be awesome if they did.
I hope they do.
Yeah, but I think that will be it because it'd be like this solidarity of being more than one country. If it's the same country, it's not quite as powerful because you can't be as pre-planned. But it's still it's such a ridiculous coincidence to be able to have that happen, to be in that stage, to be able, like the Black Power salute whenever the American athletes had a chance to do that on the podium.
Imagine the gold, silver, and bronze luge male winners standing up there giving each other tongue.
Just kissing, yeah.
It would be the best.
Yeah. So so that's my short-term prediction.
Oh,
is that there's going to be some lip locking on the podium in defiance, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens to the boycott. From if it happens. So now I'm going another degree away from me predicting it's going to happen. If that prediction comes true, what do you predict would happen in your household? Would it suddenly become acceptable to watch it because you're looking for these events to happen? Because now it's you're supporting their freedom of speech to say that we don't agree with that.
That's not going
to happen.
That's
Okay.
not going to happen.
I was trying for your sake.
It's not going to happen.
You don't want to see the hockey team kissing. Would you have a problem with that?
Watch the hockey team get. Nah.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I think.
Little man love on TV. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, anyways, I'm hoping that your 2014 is better than your 2013.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully for all three listeners that you have a great year as well.
I hope yours gets out of neutral and goes in a positive direction.
Yeah, I'm going in with a positive attitude.
Attaboy.
Despite the fact that
You're a brand new man. I mean, from last year, you're completely different. You've completely redesigned yourself. So I mean,
because well, that'll be another podcast. For
yeah,
today.
but I mean that makes a difference.
Thank you for noticing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting year, and
Yeah.
I've got a good, despite the fact that Canadian winters are brutal.
They're
They
horrible.
really are, and right now we're right dab in the middle,
And
not
we're-
even in the middle yet
of a bad one.
of a bad one.
Yeah.
It's overcast, it's cold, there's ice storms. We had like -30. Canadian winters fucking suck.
Yeah.
And it gives us something to complain about constantly. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing. Look at my pants. The bottom of my pants are full
the
of
salt stain, yeah.
salt stains.
Yeah.
I walk into work every day with the bottom of my pants frozen, and then
Yeah.
of course they thaw out, and the bottom of my pants are wet.
Yeah.
We lived like that for 5 straight months.
Yeah.
That's madness.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a special smell to wet denim. Not wet, salty. Yeah, it's this musty smell.
And wet socks.
Oh yeah, and then the things people will do, like try and dry in their socks over the heater at work or something like that. There's so many unacceptable things that happen just to try and get around the fact that it's winter. Oh,
The other thing I noticed is yesterday, my daughter and I went to a museum, and I parked in the underground parking garage. And we were gone for a few hours. So my car de-thawed, and so when we got back, I opened the car door, and you've got that de-thawing.
Yeah.
It's been frozen for like 3 months smell.
Yeah.
And it's just a moist, gross, bacteria-filled nightmare.
Yeah.
God, I hate. Anyway, are you going south?
yeah, end of January we're going.
Oh, you are? Where are you going?
Fort Myers again.
Oh, you're going to Fort Myers? Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and Key West. I think we're gonna do a 2-day
week?
trip there. Yeah, it's Fort Myers, and then we're gonna go for an overnight to Key West.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going down to Vegas once again.
Oh wow, I'll
Yes.
have to try that sometime.
Cheap trip, like
Yeah,
it was like $500.
yeah,
Flight, hotel,
yeah. It's
a few
pretty
days. Planning to run out to Death Valley and with my camera and take some. One of the things I love is the desert. I love going into the desert and just go wandering and driving through and especially now my wife and I, we both got cameras and we're just like
Good. Right.
around. And, looking forward to just a few days in the sun, I tell you.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
We'll make it. We'll survive. We're survivors.
Indeed.
Thank you, Trevor.
Cheers. Thanks, Glenn.
We'll talk again soon.
been a Humplik.com presentation.